One thing every side in the Premier League title race needs to address going into the remainder of the Premier League title running. Obviously, Liverpool dropped points to Man United, City won, and of course, Arsenal won as well. And there's room for improvement, in my opinion, especially now if Liverpool are going to win the title. They need to make more of an improvement than everyone else, because I think Arsenal at the moment, Arsenal are the best side in the league on form in terms of how they're getting results. I think Man City got the best experience of winning trophies in the last 5 years. So we'll talk about Liverpool at the end of the video, but we'll start off with Arsenal. How can you improve this Arsenal side? Obviously, is a very, very difficult question. Defensively, they are as imperious a side as I've seen in many, many years. They remind me of the Chelsea Jose Mourinho side. Obviously, different kind of players, but the way Saliba and Gabriel were going into challenges against Brighton and have done all season as a partnership, they were so caught up in getting a clean sheet. They aggressively wanted the clean sheet so badly. It was absolutely ridiculous how aggressive this back line for Arsenal want to minimise chances for the opposition. They see it as their own game. I think the front line, their objective is to score and obviously get the result for the club. But I think the back line have their own little competition where they want to shut out opposition in the most nasty way possible. So you can't improve the back line for Arsenal. There's nothing I can say. There's a very, very minute criticism that maybe the left-back situation could be an issue. I don't see those games in the Premier League being an issue for Arsenal. Maybe a Bayern Munich, maybe a Man City, if the two clubs meet in the Champions League, could have a go at Kirill, Zinchenko potentially. But that isn't what I'm going to talk about in the video. For me, the one thing that might catch up with Arsenal potentially is where those easy goals come from. Now, obviously, they're getting goals from set pieces. The goals are spread throughout the side. The highest score in the Premier League for Arsenal is Bukayo Saka with 14 goals, which is a really good return, let's be real, for a right winger. Behind him is Kai Havertz, though, on 9. So I'm looking at the Wolves game in particular for Arsenal. The Wolves game, very, very difficult. Wolves will play a back 5. They'll play the likes of Lamina just ahead of them as well. Powerful, quick midfielders. They'll do a low block on Arsenal like Arsenal did on Man City, for example. Will that front three be able to find the same space that they found against Brighton, that they found against a really sorry West Ham side, and obviously many others this calendar year, certainly for Arsenal? That might be the one thing that Arsenal need to address. The front three, who is it? Do they need to build up a pattern of play going into the remainder of the sort of 7 games in the title race? That might be an issue because Jesus certainly hasn't scored enough this season. Martinelli's certainly been flat. Trossard scored a beautiful goal against Brighton, but the amount of space afforded to him, I don't think Arsenal are going to get in a few of these games coming up. Villa is another example as well. Very defensively astute side. I didn't talk about Villa because I think actually they've looked a little bit flat in the last few weeks. Obviously, even this weekend conceded a few goals and don't look the same defensive unit that they were maybe around December, November time. But Wolves, for me, is that standout. And I'm not sitting there saying that Wolves are going to beat Arsenal. I think Arsenal, they've got a great chance of winning every game from now until the end of the season. I genuinely mean that. I'm not doing reverse psychology. If there was a moment playing against some of these back 5s, playing sides that have got relegation to think about or Europe to think about, the motivation to be defensive and to be hard to beat, that might be where Arsenal come unstuck, because controlling midfield, they've got it spot on. Defensively, best side in Europe, in my opinion, and the keeper as well. There's no issue with the keeper, but the one thing I'd address if I was Arsenal manager, would be maybe the rhythm of the front three, who that front three is. Is it always Kai Havertz? For me, it should be at the moment. Who's the left winger? Is it Jesus? Is it Martinelli? I think Martinelli now is a shoo-in. Now he's coming back from kind of a bit of an injury. And obviously Saka on the right. Do we rely on Saka? Do we feed Saka the ball more? Is he our main attacking outlet? When Arsenal need a goal, especially if they're in a losing or drawing position, where are the goals coming from? It's not quite as easy as maybe Erling Haaland or Salah for Arsenal, but that's the only thing that this Arsenal side need to address. Right, we have to talk about Man City. Good performance against Crystal Palace, conceded a couple of goals, and that's been the case all season. And that's why City haven't got a very good record against the Big Six. The Big Six traditionally, even the top 6 obviously lost to Aston Villa as well. And I think it comes down to the defence for Man City. I really do. It's about rhythm. When you get to this point in the season, it's all well and good chopping and changing and having different competitions. Obviously, City played in 5 competitions this calendar year, if you include this bit of the year and the last year as well, and the Super Cup and the Club World Cup. So a lot of changes in defence. Rico Lewis comes in and out. Akanji, Gvardiol's a new signing. Ake and Diaz and Stones. There's a lot of different players, even Carl Walker. So that's all well and good, but we all know, as Premier League fans, football fans, this little run-in, this kind of the home stretch, you need a settled back four where everyone knows what they're doing. And there were moments against Crystal Palace where Palace had chances. Obviously, Palace scored very, very early. There are gaps in behind the likes of Ruben Diaz where there normally aren't. And that doesn't come down to individual lack of quality from Ruben Diaz. I think he's the best centre-back on the planet on his day. But it's down to who he's playing with. John Stones, Gvardiol, Ake, Carl Walker. Lots of changes. Obviously, Rico Lewis featured as well. There are lots of changes in the last few weeks. Not all of them are down to Guardiola kind of tinkering. Some of it's obviously injury related. If I'm sat here now, if I'm Guardiola or if I'm in his ear, I'm saying settle down now. Have a back four settled for the Premier League. If you need to make changes for the Champions League, fair enough. Obviously, Ruben Diaz and Stones are a massive part of it. For me, obviously, Carl Walker is injured, but he'll be coming back. So let's say Carl Walker's fully fit. I think it's a back four of Carl Walker. I think Ake's pulled up, hasn't he? So I think for me, it's got to be a Akanji at left back. He actually changed the game against Crystal Palace. He was very, very controlled in terms of how he kept the ball. Coming in on his right foot is actually a bit of a cheat code really for this City back line because everyone shifts across. If you cut in on your right foot as a left back, a bit like how Cancelo used to do, you've always got that ball into midfield and there's so much more control. And the way the City side are set up with the way Rodri comes into that back line, there's a lot more control offered when actually there's a right footer playing at left back. Obviously, Gvardiol has come in, Ake's come in, both left footers. I don't think Gvardiol's set the world alight. I like him a lot as a long-term prospect. I like him as a centre-back. I'm not sure about left back. I'm not sure about his long-term prospects at left back for the club. But even this season, I think if you're Rodrigo in the Champions League, I think if you're Saka, if we play Arsenal in the Champions League, let's just say, I think you can definitely get Gvardiol. I'd rather have Ake at left back and play Diaz, Stones and Walker. But if the injuries kind of become circumstantial, then I think you have to play Akanji. I think he's so reliable. He doesn't make a mistake. You can play him right back. You can play him left back, centre back. He's very, very versatile. But for me, the one thing you'd address as a City manager would be the back line because I'm not confident we're going to keep a clean sheet in the same way we did against Real Madrid at the home game. I'm not confident we're going to keep clean sheets against Spurs in the Premier League title race, for example. And that is an issue. And that is an issue because you're competing against two sides and it's getting much tighter. And a lot of people are giving City majority kind of favourites for winning the title at the moment. But I think it's a big concern, the back line. I think it has to improve. And I think that has to come from knowing the back four and just giving them a run out from now until the end of May. And we have to talk about Liverpool. One thing they need to address in the Premier League title race, the worst result of the weekend, you have to be beating Man United. If Liverpool don't win the title in Jurgen Klopp's final season and not picking up even home and away wins against this Man United side, I know the tradition and the weight of the fixture is huge, but you have to be beating these lot, for God's sake. And the reason they didn't beat them, it's not about the emotion, it's not about the work rate, it's not about Salah's quality or Diaz's quality, who obviously scored in the game. It comes down to control. And this is why I think Jurgen Klopp will look back at his time as Liverpool manager, and obviously we can be critical of Man City's spending, we can be critical about certain contextual factors about FSG's investment at certain points, which has been very, very smart and good investment, but maybe not enough to compete. I think that's by the by. I think Liverpool don't control games of football well enough. I think Jurgen Klopp tried to address it. He brought in Thiago, he brought in Arthur. Obviously, the Arthur one didn't work out, and that was a terrible transfer period. But you've seen for a couple of seasons, Jurgen Klopp trying to address how Liverpool control midfield, keep the ball simple, keep it a bit side to side. It doesn't always have to be rock and roll, gegenpress football. It doesn't always have to be end to end. I know Liverpool's success, certainly winning the Champions League and the league title, was based on intensity, based on feeding the ball early. But I think in modern football, you have to have 5 minutes of rest. You have to have 10 minutes of rest. That's why this Liverpool side, when they do something well, they've fallen off. Look at last season, how they fell off after the season before, nearly winning a quadruple and getting so far in the season in all 4 competitions and being so competitive. It's because of the adrenaline. It's because of the emotion, and that feeds into sides that are worse than you. Man United could have a bit of a go. Man United could realise that it's not a boring game. It's an end-to-end game. Let's do something exciting. Kobe Mainoo pops up with a beautiful goal out of nowhere. I really suspect that if Liverpool were boring for more of the game against Man United, I know it's an abstract concept, but if Liverpool were just a bit more boring, side to side, a bit more Rodri, a little bit less Szoboszlai trying to do things first time, then I do think Liverpool would have bored the game out, bored the fans, and limited Man United's chances. 65% possession, I think, for Liverpool, which is obviously a good amount of the ball. Lots of chances. But you never felt that they were strangling the game. You never felt that Man United were ever out of it. Now, obviously, we can talk about missed chances as well, particularly from Darwin Núñez, who missed a few. But I still think the control of the midfield for Liverpool has to be addressed. And the issue would be, I think Endo's been superb. He looked way out of it against Kobe Mainoo and Casemiro, which says everything. And Bruno Fernandes. He looked way out of it. There were lots of gaps. We saw the gaps appear when Kobe Mainoo kind of popped into that half space, turned and scored. So Endo has been doing fantastic this season. Who are the 2 around him? You look at Dominic Szoboszlai and McAllister, 2 players that I've been absolutely full of praise for this season. But they're 2 attacking players. They're trying to get on the front foot. They're trying to drive the ball. They're trying to dribble and they're trying to carry the ball themselves as creative players. I've kind of, we liken both really to almost Steven Gerrard. Sometimes maybe Liverpool playing with 2 Steven Gerrards on the side. Neither one of them are Xabi Alonso. I think Liverpool need more of Xabi Alonso in there. Endo's not that kind of player. He needs a lot more support in the gaps between McAllister and Szoboszlai when Liverpool don't have the ball, in my opinion. Palace at home, they're going to smash Palace all day long. But Fulham away, when Fulham get on the ball, and especially someone like Iwobi finds little half spaces, they did a good job against Man United a few months ago, of course. That'll be a tricky game. And even someone like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, some of these players, I don't think they put their foot on the ball and keep it well enough. That's why I'm not a fan of maybe Curtis Jones being touted for England. Obviously, maybe getting on the plane, but I don't think he's the kind of player at tournament football where you can just slow it down, keep it simple, keep possession, and strangle a game of football. And this Liverpool side need to learn how to do that if they're going to regain composure in the Premier League title race. Similarly with Harvey Elliott, everything's first time with Harvey Elliott. Everything's quick. Everything's running at players. And in this modern day and age, especially with the amount of football that Liverpool need to play, they need to be more calm. They need to be more collected and have more control in football matches. So that's the 3 things for me. All 3 sides are of top quality. All 3 sides are probably top 5 in Europe. If you add in Real Madrid, maybe PSG, based on what they could do with Luis Enrique. But I think out of the 5 best sides in Europe this season, 3 of them are from England. So it's very fine margins. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And obviously, I'll see you very, very soon.